Morning air in a small American town was cold enough to make people hurry to work. 12-year-old Ethan Walker walked slowly towards school with an old backpack hanging from one shoulder. His sneakers had holes, and his jacket was too thin for winter. His mother worked 2 jobs, and since his father had passed away, life had become a daily struggle. That morning, Ethan's mother handed him a small paper bag. "I'm sorry, sweetheart," she whispered. "This is all I could make." Inside was a simple peanut butter sandwich and a small apple. Ethan smiled anyway. "It's perfect, Mom." He knew she hadn't eaten breakfast herself at school. The other kids laughed at his worn-out clothes. His mother always told him, being kind costs nothing, but it can change someone's whole world. When lunchtime arrived, Ethan sat alone under a tree outside the school. Just as he unwrapped his sandwich, he noticed an elderly man sitting on a nearby bench. The man's beard was gray and his clothes were dirty. His hands shook from the cold. More than anything, his eyes looked tired. People walked past without noticing him. The old man looked at Ethan's sandwich for a second and quickly looked away. Embarrassed, Ethan stood up. "Sir, are you hungry?" The old man smiled weakly. "I haven't eaten since yesterday." Ethan looked at his sandwich. It was the only food he had until dinner. Then he remembered his mother's words, without thinking twice. He handed the sandwich and the apple to the old man. "You can have it. I'll be okay." Tears filled the old man's eyes.
"You
don't even know me," Ethan shrugged. "My mom says kindness doesn't need a reason." The old man slowly accepted the meal before Ethan walked away. The stranger called him back. "One day, life will test you. When that day comes, never lose this heart." Ethan smiled and ran back to school. He never saw the old man again. Years. Past life wasn't easy for Ethan. He worked after school, earned scholarships, and eventually became a construction engineer. He built a small but happy life and took care of his aging mother. One rainy evening, Ethan was driving home after a long day at work. The road was slippery suddenly. A truck lost control and crashed into his car. The impact sent his vehicle tumbling into a ditch. Trapped, his phone was destroyed. His legs were pinned under twisted metal. The rain poured harder. He screamed for help, but the empty road swallowed his voice. Hours passed, his strength faded. He thought about his mother. He thought he would never see her again. Then headlights appeared. Black SUV stopped. An older gentleman stepped out with his driver and bodyguard. The man looked at the wrecked car and shouted, "Someone's alive. Call an ambulance." They managed to pull Ethan from the wreck just before the damaged car caught fire at the hospital. Doctors said 1 more minute inside the vehicle could have cost him his life. Ethan wanted to thank the stranger who had saved him. A nurse smiled. "He's waiting to see you." An elegant elderly man walked into the room wearing a tailored suit. Ethan was confused. "You saved me." The man nodded. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out an old, faded photograph. It showed a skinny boy holding out a paper bag with a sandwich. Ethan's eyes widened. "That's me." Old man smiled. "And that hungry old stranger was me?" Ethan couldn't believe it. The man sat down. 20 years ago, I had lost everything. My business had collapsed. My family was gone. I had nowhere to live. I was hungry and hopeless. He paused. That day, everyone ignored me except one little boy. Ethan's eyes filled with tears. "The sandwich." The man laughed softly. "It wasn't the sandwich that saved me." "What do you mean?" "I was planning to end my life that evening, because I believed nobody cared whether I lived or died." He looked at Ethan. "But your kindness reminded me that goodness still existed." The old man's voice shook. "I decided to keep fighting." Over the years, he rebuilt his business, worked hard, and eventually became one of the wealthiest businessmen in the state. "I spent years looking for the little boy who saved me," Ethan whispered. You found me. The old man smiled. No, son, he placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder. We found each other. A few weeks later, Ethan received a surprise invitation. The businessman announced the creation of a charity foundation to feed hungry children and help struggling families. He wanted Ethan to lead it. Why me? Ethan asked. The old man smiled. Because compassion built this dream. Together, they opened food banks, shelters, and scholarship programs across the community. Thousands of children received meals, single mothers found support, homeless families found hope. One afternoon, Ethan's mother visited the foundation. She saw hundreds of children eating warm meals. The old businessman walked over. Ma'am, years ago you packed a simple sandwich for your son, she smiled. It wasn't much. The old man shook his head. It was enough to save 2 lives. Ethan looked at his mother and realized something powerful. Kindness never disappears. Generosity can travel through years, through pain, and through strangers' lives. As the sun set, Ethan asked the old man, "Do you think one sandwich really changed the world?" The old man looked at the children, laughing and eating together. "It changed my world," he smiled. "And when you change one person's world, you never know how many others will be changed because of it." Moral of the story: never underestimate a small act of kindness. The help you give today may become the miracle that saves your own life tomorrow. Wealth fades, fame disappears, but compassion leaves a legacy that can inspire generations. Sometimes, the greatest heroes are ordinary people who choose to share what little they have.